Okay, so imagine this. You decide to travel to every single continent on Earth in just 30 days. Oh, and without spending a single dollar. That was the absolutely insane challenge YouTuber Niko Omilana set for himself. But when he got to the final, most brutal leg of his journey, the goal wasn't about saving money anymore. It was about pure survival. This is the story of how he faced Antarctica. Right, so our story ends up here, on the most remote, most inhospitable continent on the entire planet. I mean, look at it. It's a place of just stunning, unbelievable beauty, but also extreme, extreme danger. And when I say extreme, I really mean it. The coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth was right here, minus 94 degrees Celsius. That's a temperature so cold, it's almost impossible to even wrap your head around it. So for this part of the journey, the rules had to change. This wasn't about saving money anymore. Survival was the new mission. And believe me, the stakes were higher than they had ever been before. You see, the original challenge was wild enough. Travel the world in 30 days with literally $0. But Antarctica, that's a whole different beast. It forced Niko to raise funds through brand deals. So yeah, this leg was paid for, but it was so far from a vacation. The new goal was a lot simpler. Just survive. The whole expedition kicks off from Ushuaia, Argentina, the city at the literal end of the world. And right at the very start, in a crazy coincidence, Niko bumps into another traveler named Yen. Turns out, Yen's on his own incredible quest, traveling from the Arctic all the way to the Antarctic without a single flight. This chance meeting, it becomes super important later on. But before they can even think about setting foot on the ice, they have to get through the most notoriously dangerous stretch of water on the entire planet. The danger of the Drake's Passage really just comes down to science. It's this one spot where the world's most powerful ocean current gets squeezed into a narrow channel. And what that does is create this totally chaotic sea with waves that can get up to 12 meters. That's 40 feet high. It's like a cosmic washing machine. And these waters are absolutely no joke. It's estimated that over 20,000 sailors have lost their lives here over the centuries. Yeah, it's a modern challenge, but it has a very long, very deadly history. That 2-day crossing takes its toll almost immediately. Niko, who's young and super fit, gets hit with this just debilitating seasickness. The constant, violent tossing of the ship is just a brutal, brutal introduction to the raw power of this continent. And this is where Niko's whole perspective starts to shift. While he's down there complaining, he meets Pam and Clarence, a couple in their late 70s. Pam had even taken a fall in the shower, but they were totally unfazed, just spirits high, taking it all in. It was a really powerful lesson in resilience. So after somehow surviving the Drake Passage, Niko finally arrives on the ice. But this isn't some sightseeing trip. He's got a list of specific, pretty difficult challenges he needs to complete. He's only got 4 days to check everything off his list. Photograph 3 native animals, pull off something called the Antarctica heist, climb a mountain, and of course, brave the infamous polar plunge. Okay, the heist is pretty hilarious. He promised a couple of guys that he'd write their names in the snow in Antarctica. Simple enough, right? The problem is, writing, kneeling, or even just touching the snow is strictly forbidden by the Antarctic Treaty to protect the environment. So to keep his promise, he has to become an intercontinental criminal. And the polar plunge, it turns into this high-stakes bet with his new friend Yen. If Niko loses, he has to do a freezing run around the ship. But if Yen loses his, he's on the hook to buy Niko's next flight, which would keep the whole $0 world tour alive. The pressure was definitely on. And just so we're all clear on how dangerous this is, the water is minus 2 degrees Celsius. It's literally below freezing. The only thing keeping it liquid is the salt. Jumping into that is a massive, massive shock to your entire system. So in the end, Niko just can't take the cold. He taps out, and it looks like he's lost the bet. But then Yen, seeing how much Niko was struggling, gives up right after him, honoring the wager and buying the flight. So it was a physical loss, but honestly, a strategic win for the bigger mission. But beyond all the stunts and the challenges, the most powerful part of this whole story really turned out to be the human connections that were formed in this incredibly isolated place. Remember Pam and Clarence? Their one lifelong dream for this trip was just to see penguins up close. But the rocky shores and icy conditions, it was all just too difficult for them to navigate, and they couldn't make it off the small inflatable boats. On day 1, they tried and had to turn back. Day 2, same thing, and it was just heartbreaking to watch. But on the 4th and final day, inspired by the energy of the whole group, they decided to give it one last shot. And this time, they made it. And here it is. This is the payoff. After finally setting foot on the continent and seeing the penguin she dreamed about her whole life, Pam's simple, heartfelt words just say everything. Oh, yes. It was all worth it. Just an incredibly touching moment. So, what do you really take away from a journey to the end of the Earth? Well, it's pretty clear the experience left a really profound impact. Niko saw the effects of climate change with his own eyes. He saw these massive icebergs that had just broken off, and he learned how entire penguin colonies are being forced to move further and further south because their home is becoming too warm. It's a stark, first-hand look at just how fragile our planet is. And this is where that theme of kindness really comes full circle. As part of the whole series, Niko tallies up the value of kindness he received, doubles it, and donates it to charity. For Antarctica, that donation went to Oceanites, an organization that is dedicated to protecting the very penguins that Pam and Clarence had dreamed of seeing. So it kind of leaves us with this big question, doesn't it? Niko went to Antarctica for a list of personal achievements, a heist, a mountain, a plunge. But the parts of the journey that really stick with you are about connection, with Yen, and especially with Pam and Clarence. It really makes you wonder, in the most remote place on Earth, what truly defines an adventure?